Hey guys, it's Tuesday morning, it's 9 o'clock and I'm off to Malaysia. I have a meeting this morning in Kuala Lumpur and I need to be there in 30 minutes, so I better get a move on. So that's here to here in 30 minutes. Doable? Yeah, of course it is. The power of video. Okay, so that's this morning's meeting done. One of the great things about video conferencing is that you can just do that. You can have a meeting with somebody, 5,000 miles away and be home in time for lunch. So for today's vlog, I was going to talk about part of the planning process for building presentations, but over the last couple of days I've had a lot of questions about the process of making the vlog and what equipment do I use, what software do I use. And although I really don't want to spend an awful lot of time on it, I will sort of show you some of the equipment I use and sort of talk through some of the things that I do. But the reality is the equipment's not important. As I said in the vlog about storytelling, telling the story that you want to tell is really the most important thing. And the equipment is just a means to an end. It's a way of you being able to convey your ideas, get them recorded and edited and then published. So it really doesn't matter if your only piece of equipment you've got is the camera in your cell phone. I use this quite regularly. If sometimes it's the only camera available to me. You can do the traditional sort of selfie, hold the camera up, switch the camera to look at you and vlog straight into the camera. When the option presents itself, I do like to use a better quality camera like the one that I'm using now. This is a Sony AX53, sorry. This camera here. Now this one is actually broken. You can see here I dropped it and smashed the whole screen out of it. So given that's the touchscreen controller for it, it's not actually much use. However, this is a great camera, and in fact one of the reasons it's a great camera, especially if you're vlogging on the move, is if you will notice if I can actually get to open, the lens inside it floats. Now that might not show up very well, but as I tip that camera up and down, the lens inside goes up and down and stays as level as I can. So it's not as good as a 3-axis gimbal, but very, very, very good camera. The microphone that's built into it is okay. It's not great. I'm actually using a Rode VideoMic Pro. In fact, what I'll do now is I'll stop the recording, take the mic off so you can see it, and then I'll plug it back in and you can hear the difference. Okay, so we're now on the internal mic. This is the Rode VideoMic Pro. It's got a nice little sort of stabilization cradle to take out any vibrations, and then it just plugs in, sits on the hot shoe, and then plugs directly into the mic input there. Great microphone, very directional. If you're going outside, you do also need what's known as the dead cat, which is the fluffy thing that goes over this to help with the wind noise, but otherwise really good mic. The challenge with the Rode mic is occasionally I forget to turn it on, so that I'll sit here and I'll talk for 10-15 minutes maybe and realise I've not recorded any audio whatsoever. Now, like I say, there are other cameras that I use. I'd say these aren't all used for the vlog. I use a lot of this equipment as part of my day job when we make videos at work for the company. So sometimes I use my Sony Super Zoom, my HX400V. The thing with this camera really is just the quality of the image that it gives. Now it gives a very different image from a video camera like this. It gives a much more photographic image, but it also has an amazing zoom. So you can also sit this camera a long way back from whatever it is you're shooting, zoom right in, and using the Sony radio mic that plugs into the top of it, I can actually go a long way from the camera and obviously transmit the audio back to it, and the zoom means I can still be center frame. So other things I use, my good old-fashioned Hero 2 GoPro. As I said in yesterday's vlog, I've just put a new battery in this after a number of years, actually more years than I can remember how long ago I bought this. But this is great. I use this a lot for shots in the car because it's very compact and it's got a very wide angle lens. I use this a lot for overhead shots as well, so I can mount this above a surface. I'm looking down and I record. Now the one downside to this camera is the microphone. The microphone in it is rubbish. And generally what I will do is, if I'm using that camera and that is the only camera, for instance I'm doing an overhead shot down onto the bench, is I will use a separate audio recorder, and this is a Zoom 4N Pro. This is a professional audio recorder. It records to an SD card. And what I will do is I will start recording on the camera, I will start recording on this, I will make a big clap sound so that the two will sync up properly, and then using the software that I use to edit, it can synchronize the audio from one device to the pictures from the other device, and you get a perfect synchronization of the two. Okay, what about software? Well, there are so many free options for video software today that you can pretty much use anything you want. If you don't have the budget or the knowledge of how to use it, just go get a copy of iMovie on your phone free from Apple. There are some great movies out there that have been shot and edited exclusively on the phone in iMovie, and the quality is just outstanding. If you want that little bit more flexibility, I use Final Cut Pro. This isn't a recommendation of Final Cut Pro over something like Adobe Premiere. It's mainly, that was the one that I learnt on. And one of those things, when you learn one system, you tend to stay with it. So I use Final Cut Pro for pretty much all my editing, and I use Apple's Motion for some basic motion graphics. Now, by any stretch of the imagination, I am not a graphics artist. Motion is one of those pieces of software that I think you could spend your entire life learning to use and still not be an expert. But it is a very, very powerful motion graphics package, and it integrates very nicely with Final Cut Pro. Okay, so we've got all our equipment. We know the story that we want to tell. Let's talk about the production quality. Come over to the bench, I want to draw you a picture. How do we go about making sure that the final video or the final presentation or the final piece of content that we're creating stands out from the rest? Well, let's take a look at content, and this could be a movie, this could be a presentation, this could be a document, this could be anything that you're producing. And let's say the quality runs along the bottom here, and it starts with rubbish and it ends with something beyond your wildest dream. In this case, if we're looking at movies, I would say, this is Godfather 2, one of the best films that's ever been made. And everything sits along that spectrum between the worst of the worst videos online to Godfather 2. And then we need to look at the amount of effort that's involved in making them. So there's easy and there's total pain in the behind. And again, everything sits along this line somewhere. Well, The Godfather 2, I would imagine, probably sits right up there. It's the greatest film ever. It took a huge amount of effort to make. That's why it's the greatest film ever. And I would imagine most of the videos that you see online sit somewhere down in this space here. Because they're not great. They don't tell a great story, but they're also very easy to make. Somebody took a cell phone camera, put it in front of their dog, watched their dog fall over. Great, they fit into that space there. But the majority of videos that you see, if we draw a curve, and let's say it starts off relatively linearly, what we get to is a point here. Well, the quality is actually quite good. But for the amount of effort that went in here, this is low effort. There wasn't an awful lot of effort, but it actually produced a really good result, because some of the technology that's out there really assists us in making a good video. Now, so long as we've got a good story behind it, we can get to this point relatively easily. And this is where 99.9% of others will go, you know what, that's good enough. But really what we want to do is we want to find a way to get somewhere along this curve. Now, at the top end here,
This is excellence. This is, you know, world class. So really what we're looking for is how do we get better than this and somewhere close to this? Well, the reality is, even if we get to here, it just requires a little bit more effort and we get something that is great. And this differentiates you from this person here. This is the difference between a 10-minute YouTube video that somebody watches the first 3 minutes of, and this is a 10-minute video that somebody watches the entire thing. And if you look at all of the great video makers that are on YouTube, and there are some absolutely outstanding ones out there, they're not trying to make the next Godfather. What they're trying to make is a great video, and they do that by telling a great story.
Okay, to wrap up today's vlog, I just wanted to give you a recommendation for a great book. This is The Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs. It's quite an old book by a gentleman called Carmine Gallo, who's a professional public speaking trainer. He trains some of the world's best CEOs to present. But in this book, he takes apart a lot of Steve Jobs' presentations. And the one thing that comes out of this book, if you take away all the information, is that Steve Jobs was a consummate storyteller. And that's what Carmine Gallo is trying to get across in this book, is that you need to be a good storyteller. You need to be able to get your message across to people. So up in the top corner there is a link to the vlog from a couple of days ago when I talked about storytelling. Thanks guys, I'll see you all tomorrow.